How are players ever going to trust Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast again? Trust is a very hard thing to regain after you've lost it. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on my channel today. For everyone out there hitting that subscribe button, we're only 285 subscribers away from hitting 15,000. Thanks again, everyone who's made this possible. It's just phenomenal to see so many new players joining the channel. To everyone who watches my content each and every day and hitting that thumbs up button and leaving a comment, again, thanks a lot to all of you. It helps get the viewership wider spread, and I really appreciate it. And of course, the Patreon members, the guys out there financing this channel, because hey, we don't have any fancy sponsors here, but you guys more than make up for it. So thanks again to each and every one of you. What do you do when you lose all credibility with your customer base? What is the road back to getting you to that at least breaking even point again, where players kind of trust you? The last time Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast made this mistake, and I don't think there's a player out there who can disagree, this was a monumental mistake they made with the M30 packs, pricing them at that level. The mistake they made, coming back from that is going to take a very long time, because you've lost all credibility. Spirit of the reserve list, price-sensitive players. We have a long way to go. So how can a company like Wizards and Hasbro get back to that level? How do you earn credibility? Number one, they are really going to have to stay on the path. And I mean, answer our questions when we ask them. Keep your price points in check. Make sure there is value in the cards we're buying. Because how come I can go and buy a simple card game from Hasbro, beautifully detailed, for $9.99 from Walmart, but I go to buy a Magic the Gathering card game and I got to spend $75 and it's not even a complete deck? Just a bunch of cards randomized? Interesting. So how do you make sure there's value there? They need to recognize the secondary market, because the last time they made this mistake, the last time I can really reconcile in my head this exact same situation, is going to be when they created the reserve list. When the people buying the secondary market cards, because they were hard to find, lost hand over fist money on things like the Elder Dragons. We've talked about this. So Wizards has to do something to reassure the players. And until they do, you're going to see players only buying certain cards. They're not going to be buying high-end, modern staple cards if they think they're going to get reprinted, and everyone feels like they're going to now. Everyone feels like, oh, if I buy that, it's like a bad bet. I'm already losing money. Exactly. That's what I'm hearing all the time right now. They feel like it's a bad bet that they're going to lose in about a year. Most players agree. If I have a fetch land that's $50, I get to play it for 3 years and then they reprint it and it goes down to $25, $30. They don't feel so bad because they had a couple of years of entertainment out of it. Right? A couple of years. But when you reprint it a year after that, or a year after that, and it goes to $10, $12 and you're just driving the value down, that's where players start to have an issue. Take an example of a set like Dominaria Remastered coming up. It's not reserve list. Those cards are protected still, apparently. You look at that and you say, okay, that box in Canada is $279.95, $315 Canadian. In the US, that would be what? $215, $220 US, right? Plus taxes, maybe, depending on where you are. Let's just say $220 US wherever you are. And you open that. If you're just keeping the cards, you don't care. But a lot of players never just keep the cards. They sell off some bulk, maybe a couple of individual mythic cards they don't need. They're hoping to drive some of that value back into the market because they spent so much on the box. But as the president of Wizards admitted, as soon as they're opened, you can lose significant value. No, really? Why is that? I wonder why that is. We'll get to that. So you have a player opens that box and gets out of that $220. Let's say they get $160 in value. They don't get to sell it for 160. They go to their LGS, they get 50 cents on the dollar, 60 cents on the dollar. They end up with $80, $90. So where'd the rest of that money go? Was that the play experience? Was that the enjoyment of the game? That's interesting, isn't it? That much value gets lost. And that's what players are having a hard time reconciling when they buy a box. And because of that, box sales are down everywhere. Dominaria Remastered, upcoming set. Not reserve list, right? Not reserve list, obviously. And when you look at that, the prices are going nowhere because nobody's buying the boxes. The boxes are not being ordered because stores have no liquidity to buy them. So they got to buy with the cash they have on hand. Instead of a medium-sized store buying 10 cases, they're buying 2. 2 cases. And after they sell those 2 cases, they'll buy 2 more with the profits they've made, right? So I want you to think about that. That is reminiscent of the 90s. That's how stores bought back then. Wizards has lost so much credibility, they've shot us back to the Stone Age. That's scary. And it's going to take them a very long time to come back from that. And they're going to have to put up new pillars and new posts, new signs saying open for business, here's what we're going to do. It's going to take a long time. And unless they answer the questions of players, unless they build in some more stability, remember the last time they created the reserve list, they need something there to buffer themselves from the anger of the players. I don't care what kind of dike or defense they build, they need to do something. Remember that game Rampart, where you got to build like the castle walls around, and then you get new cannons you can keep firing out? That's what they need to do. They got to build new castle walls and expand and build up. And it's going to take time. It's going to take effort. So as much fun as Dominaria Remastered is going to be, as much as some of these new sets coming up are, have you noticed a lot of these cards are still losing value and the sales are lower across the board? That's player confidence. And when you lose that confidence, that trust, sales are down. Now what's funny is because the reserve list, which was created by Wizards of the Coast to support the secondary market of collectors and evil investors, those cards are dropping, but not nearly as much as you'd think. Not nearly as far as modern cards are starting to fall. And that's because of that protection built in, that buffering zone, the original castle wall, the wall that is the reserve list. And you can hate it, you can love it, but it is giving the secondary market a certain level of assurance that those cards won't go to zero. That even if the game collapses, their nostalgic old age cards like that can go down, but they're not going to go to zero. And most of them are losing value. They are losing previous value from the highs of 2021. And today's Hot 10 video, you'll see, it's fun, it's great to see all these card sales, but they're much lower than they normally would be. And again, that's still lack of confidence, hatred toward Hasbro and Wizards. It takes a long time, but they've got to answer some questions for themselves. They got to have discussions in the ivory tower. I mean the big wigs who make the big decisions, not the R&D designers. Get some old school players in there to help you make these decisions. Contact some YouTube content creators. We'll be happy to point you in the right direction. It's frustrating. Sorry. I've tried to stay all nice this video, but it still gets hard. But it's still a great game. And you're going to have players who want to play it. So eventually they can probably build those roads up again and build new defenses that are mutually beneficial to the players, to the evil investors, and to the company that is Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you the Hot 10 sales this week. We'll walk down the yellow brick road together and show you why the reserve list continues to hold value while modern cards and the sales of modern cards continue to fall. Number 10 this week is Power Leech. Now, before Brothers War, remember how this card was doing? It had a mini buyout, a couple hundred copies sold. It was a big wig deal. And now you look at it and realize the price is coming right back down to earth, just like I told people it would. If you take a look on TCG Player, you can find this card for somewhere around the $27, $28 mark for a moderately played copy, but still had 19 sales this week, and the market price is still somewhere around $46, whereas the average price is $38, but I've seen it as cheap as $27. It's something to keep your eye on if it's a card you always wanted. But spikes like this seem to come with new sets. You just have to pay attention to the warning signs. If it's a card you want, wait for 90 days after a set comes out to get it back at its lowest price. Now, a card like Thrall Champion, which is a channel card here, I love this card. Cards like this, I've always believed could actually come back and become a big thing if they follow more tribal stuff for this particular thing, which is the Thralls. Just like Slivers and Elves and everything else. 21 sales this week. The market price is $7.72, but in 2021, this card was 50 cents at some point, okay? I think it was 57 cents I bought my copies for, and look at the mini spike in bouncing. It's not dropping to zero. It's not dropping overall. It's having little hiccups and spikes. It does go down, but players have fun buying into the history and the nostalgia, and they don't feel so bad buying it when it's reserve list. Plus, you could buy this card for $2 on TCG Player. Okay, guys? Here we have Aluren. Now, this is from Tempest, of course. 23 sales this week, and this one's actually not a bad card. The market price is trending down on it, $64.28, but as a 2 green, 2 other, any player may play a creature card with total casting cost 3 or less whenever he or she could play an instant card without paying its mana cost. That's pretty awesome. And depending if you have a deck built around taking advantage of that, like Elves and stuff, this card can be a lot of fun, okay? But again, this card was as high as $150. It's down to 60, but it hasn't gone down to $30 or $20. It is reserve list. And no matter how you feel about the reserve list, it offers that buffer and protection. It's like a stock market. All the modern stocks, people just don't believe in them right now. Whereas the safety net, like banks and stuff, that's your reserve list. It is your bank stock version. It's blue chip. It's the highest value stuff that seems to hold the longest value, no matter how you look at that type of product. Number 7, Rainbow Veil. 24 sales, market price of $10.33, and you can see versus the average there is a bit of disparity there. Now cards like this had a real big upswing because they do tap for any color mana, right? And yes, you have to give it to your opponent, but there's ways of avoiding that, and that's the interesting thing about a card like Rainbow Veil. Low end card, Fallen Empires. Doesn't it feel like a Falling Empire right now? Let's go on with Wizards and Hasbro. That's what people were joking with me, my buddies, and then I saw a couple of comments on the channel. Crazy stuff. But cards like this, they'll just never go back down to being 50 cents because people don't believe they should be there. And that's the difference. The players believe that that card shouldn't be there, or they don't believe in what Hasbro and Wizards have done to the game right now. That lack of belief. 25 sales for Bayou. Now this card almost made the Hot 10 last week, but here we are. Market price of $441.83. But the average is $432. I've seen this card as cheap as $380 Canadian. So it's even cheaper than that, depending on the condition you're after. And a lot of Commander players are taking advantage of the lower prices for cards like this. But do we really expect dual lands, like the Bayou, to go back down to $180? Because I really don't think cards like this will ever go back to those levels. The age, the history, the nostalgia attached to cards like this will remain. Even if Wizards reprinted the reserve list and put it in some kind of new card format, whatever they wanted to do, chances are older cards like this will have that kind of museum quality appeal we joke about, right? Certain players will always want the real deal. Now, when we get down to number 5, same type of deal. It's Plateau, 26 sales. Market price is $329. The average is $309. But here in Canada, you can find this card for like $270. It's really come down a little bit in price, but that's why the sales are a little bit stronger. Okay, that's why this card has gone up a bit in the sense it's not dropping off. It has consistent sales week after week of always around 10 to 14. Never really always makes the Hot 10, but it continues to be there. It's one of those cards that just doesn't fade away because it's used inside Commander, Vintage, Legacy. It's a reserve list, and it's a dual land. Now, number 4, Metalworker. Favorite of the Taco King himself, 31 sales. With the dipping of this card and people being able to find it for about $110 on TCG Player for lightly played, that really got people going. And if you happen to be shopping for any Magic cards and you're using TCG Player, please remember to use my affiliate link It's found in the description of all my videos. It really helps the channel out. I really appreciate each and every one of you who takes the time to click that link and continue your shopping experience, because then I get a little kickback for the channel and I really appreciate it. Number 3 this week, Zirlin of the Claw. I did mention this in the card watch video because people are still building Dragon Tribal. They're still having a good time with a lot of fun decks with friends. And this card has totally come down to the point you can find moderately played copies for $6 on TCG Player. $6, guys. This thing was at 40 something dollars at its height. A near mint right now I think is $18, $19. It just has not recovered from where it was, and that's the interesting thing. It's not as low as it ever was. It's still reserve list, so people have a certain value attached to that card. But if this was some modern staple that rotated out and was getting reprinted, it would just plummet to nothing because it got reprinted too quickly. This is that whole confidence building thing and the reassurance that players need, and they're not getting it from Hasbro or Wizards right now, and that's going to take time. Here we have Earthcraft. A little surprised, didn't expect to see this card here on the list this week, but when I counted up here, it was okay. Tap an untapped creature you control to untap a basic land. A very nice card to have around. Does have some value. Market price of $132. Average is $139. You can see it's trending down. I think this card can actually wait. This is one of those low-level, mid-tier reserve list cards. I mean, one splash of green and some other color and you're ready to go. But if you wait probably another 90 days, you'll probably save another 5-10%. It's probably worth it. It's not going to recover anytime soon with what's going on in the world. So it's a card you definitely can wait on. And the number 1 card this week is Griffin Canyon. And again, people were building Griffin decks. They were having some fun. But seeing this card reach down to like the $4 or $5 mark for moderately played copies, heavily played, I think were $2 for a few copies on TCG, really got players thinking, I might as well grab some now. It doesn't cost a lot to get in there. And there, that's right, I said, and there, reserve list. That's the buffer. That's the protection that Wizards built in. And it's held for 30 years. And that's why these cards can't drop as far. And that's why players, even though they're mad at Wizards, certain players have left modern cards behind to go buy reserve list staples. Which means, yes, you're not deriving income from the secondary market. But if you planned your market better, instead of being greedy, and actually planned out a roadmap to wealth for Hasbro going forward, they could have done a lot of different things. It would have taken longer. It would have been more methodical, but it would have produced more. Losing customers that you can't regain, and these are customers with money, and losing them, you just can't recover that quickly. And it's going to show in Dominaria Remastered. It's going to show in your future sets like Phyrexia, All Will Be One. I think I said that right this time. Amazing. You're going to have issues, Wizards, and you just don't see it yet. You refuse to acknowledge what's going on. And it's always a lagging indicator that they don't know, but everyone else knows. You know they watch YouTube content creators. You know they've got people watching this stuff. We're the ones gathering the data for them. Ridiculous. Guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me on the channel. Slam those comments down in the comment section. Let me know how you feel toward Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast right now and what you think they should do to fix the confidence of the game. And of course, a big shout out to each and every one of the fantastic patrons on my channel who support me each and every day of the month. Guys, without these patrons, we wouldn't have the content we have today. Thanks again, every one of you. Can't wait to see you guys on the live stream tonight, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have a good time. It's the holidays. We got to enjoy it, guys. And yes, I'm still going to buy some remastered. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't help myself. I don't care about the reprints for a set like this. I don't care about any secondary market value. I want that draft experience. I want that pre-release experience. I would want to kick back and enjoy it. How do you guys feel about it? You're looking forward to it? That's what I'd like to know. And you made it to the end. You're a 3%er. You're one of those special people who makes it right to the end. And you're like, yeah, I made it. It was a longer video because I had a little bit of stuff I wanted to talk about at the beginning. I know. Building up confidence and losing it, it's a horrible thing for companies to go through. But sometimes you have to go through it to come back stronger later on.